Super Cool Radio!
Hey everyone, before we jump into the show, I want to tell you about our merch store on Threadless. Shop a wide variety of logos with multiple colors and sizes available for each design. Your support is greatly appreciated and helps us continue to make killer content like this episode. Please visit supercoolradio.threadless.com or the link in the description to shop now. Hello everyone, I am Matthew Thomas. This is Super Cool Radio. Thank you so much for tuning in to another killer episode. I got a great guest with me at this time. He recently formed the Sweet Kill and released the album Darkness. Please welcome Pete Mills. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, Matthew.
Of course, as soon as I heard the album Darkness, I know we're going to discuss this later on the interview, but I just want to say, like, I very much enjoy that album is like a whole mood wrapped into one.
Oh, thank you, man. I really appreciate that. It was really important to keep it consistent, and that was the focus, and that was the goal. And it was nice to get that recognition from the German label Young and Cold, because they right away, they loved the first 4 songs I sent them. So it just kind of gave me that confidence to go, okay, I need 6 more. Let's go.
And before we get into the album, because I know we got so much to discuss, I did want to start for you. How'd you get started as a musician?
It started very early being exposed to rock and roll at a very young age. I found that was like my purpose. I just knew that the idea of following the status quo as far as going to like post-secondary, college, have a career, all that stuff, I was like, no, hell no. I was even such a rebel that when my parents thought that it would be good, because I hated team sports. I hated like the idea of doing anything with like other people. So they were like, well, why don't you learn how to play guitar? I'm like, no, there's no way. I don't want guitar lessons. And then all of a sudden I'm like, oh yeah, my grandma, I remember they had a guitar. I want to learn how to play that song. It was a Metallica song, and I just want to learn how to see if I could do it. And when I started to see that I could do it based off of just my ear, I thought this could be fun. And for whatever reason, it stuck. And then the correlation of then coming into high school and then joining the football team, and then realizing that, like, hey man, we're all interdependent. There's certain things that I can't be the quarterback, but I'm really good at sacking the quarterback, and then I started to see that that's how bands operate, because I became obsessed with the interdynamics of how does this cohesive unit sound so cool? Why is the drummer so rad? And why is the bass player able to like kind of be in the shadows, but then be significant? So I started to see the validity of everyone has a role. And so being on a team, that sort of expedited that perspective, and then being able to implement that in a band music took on a whole like juggernaut of a trajectory for myself.
That is really awesome. And I know it does, like with music, sometimes people don't think, it correlates to like other aspects of life, but like it does help you become a team player, because you have to perform with all these people to make sure you have like the complete sound, and it translates to football or any kind of sports as well. So that's really cool, the correlation.
Yeah, right on, man. I mean, I look at like hockey and basketball are like the best examples, because, football, you got 11 people, but like in basketball and hockey, you got 5. So your goalie is your drummer, your defense is your bass, your guitar players are your left and right wing, and your lead singer is the center.
That is actually very cool dissection of hockey compared to music. I like that. The first time.
Yeah, your point guard is your singer. Your center is your drummer. Your power forward is your guitar. And then I don't know basketball that well, but whoever the other guys are, let's call him the bass player.
But for sure that is a really cool, like, you know, how like music, you know, as we said, correlates to other sports and stuff like that. That's cool how you just broke that down and you kind of assigned everyone a music position for their sport as well. That was cool. First time here on Super Cool Radio for that.
Right on.
And I did want to talk about before we get into darkness real quick. I got a new question for this season. For you, because I know you've performed with some great bands, and I'm sure you've been to many concerts as well. So for you, what has been either the most memorable concert you've either performed at or been to?
Let's go performance. There's been a few, and it's tough to say which one takes the cake. Sometimes I go, okay, the one with the most audience, which was 10,000 people at Red Rocks, was pretty memorable, especially when we got into a bit of a yelling match with the audience. But that was in another band in another era of my career. And then I just go like recently playing festivals down in the OC where I'm from. I'm living in LA. So down in the OC, some festivals are really fun. And then I can never, you never can underestimate the goth clubs in LA and that scene. And so this sort of smallness of certain, but packed clubs that, like, you know, Bar Sinister, for example, like, you know, our last show there was just super like on point. Like we had 3 encores. It was just like phenomenal. Like people just didn't want us to leave. And that's the best feeling. And in the last show I could say that really stuck out as far as being an audience participant would be 9 Inch Nails. I had the privilege of seeing them when they did that. It was it was a while ago, but it was in 2018. They did 5 nights at the Palladium. And just being in the atmosphere of that and seeing the interesting yet calculated set list flow that Trent orchestrated, there was a lot of very atmospheric moments where it was just him and his piano, and then it was like completely juxtaposed by having like Mike Garson on stage and Gary Newman came out for some songs and then like full on band and just absolute light show situation. So the juxtaposition of those two extremes within that one show, and I saw it a couple nights in a row, so it was different. There wasn't like an exact like we're sticking to this whatever 15 song set. You know, they did switch it up a little bit. That was a very, it was very grounding. It brought me back to like my roots.
That definitely sounds like an awesome experience. I have not seen 9 Inch Nails live, but I've like most of the people who I've talked to say they always put on a really great show, but it's also there's a lot of inner workings. Like you can really see like how Trent really lays out each set list.
Well, it's interesting too because I ran into a couple of women that were like traveling across the country to like they were already at like a 9 Inch Nails show 80 or whatever. Like they were just, that was their thing. Like wherever that, because I guess 9 Inch Nails doesn't play as much as they used to, you know. I mean, Trent's got kids now, you know, he's doing scores for films. So when they do play out, it's like a small leg here, a small leg there. So these two women are just like, yep, we go wherever Trent goes kind of thing. And I respected that. That was like dedication, you know.
That is a lot of dedication. I know, like, it always seems like some of those bands who don't tour as a lot or like have a huge following, that there's always that like group of people who will just go wherever they go.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think we're warmed up. I think I really want to talk about your new album Darkness, which was released earlier this year, and I know you have a vinyl release that you're working on as well. So for you, like, it is a solo project. So like, how did this come about? What was your inner workings and thoughts for Darkness?
You know, over the years, being in bands, having those epic, esoteric, loquacious discussions about G major versus E minor versus the structure versus the feel, and it's like the democracy of art sometimes can get super cumbersome because it's just like, oh my god, like, dude, let's just like, it's a song, it's just simple, it doesn't have to be this like thing, but at the same time, that thing can be weaved into the lyrics, and maybe it can just be simplified and delivered in such a way that the lyrics have more of an emphasis or a focus. So just being in that for as long as I have been, it taught me a lot. Don't get me wrong, but when it came time to like sort of find what it is that I want to say, how I want to say it, and why I want to say it, I didn't really want to have epic discussions with people about it. I just wanted to do it. So it was awesome to just have that freedom and just to be able to fall in line with what works and what is authentic to who I am as an artist, being that most of my life in my role in bands was to be the grounding person for the singer. So when I just started to see that I had a lot to say, and it's not about, well, I don't have, maybe I should just find a singer to say it. Like I've never really been a fan of singing somebody else's lyrics or have someone else sing mine. So I just thought, you know what, I'm just going to sing it and go for it. And the cohesion and the simplicity of the way that I've found that outlet, I super value it. And it's very similar to, say, Prince, the Prince construct, where he just plays all the instruments, and or Stevie Wonder, where he's like the drummer and the piano player and the singer and the songwriter. Or most accurately, the best metaphor or best similarity would be like a Trent Reznor, where he has collaborations with Atticus Ross, and he has outside input, and certain people will help with the mix and certain people will help with the mastering. But the idea is that he is the thrust of that. And so whoever's on drums is whoever's on drums, whoever's is on bass, but most likely he's found his niche too with the people that he trusts. And I feel that way as well with the people that I work with in LA. They're the best, and I wouldn't have it any other way. But if the best is on tour with another band, that's understandable, and that's the nature of the game. So I'll get another best to play that show or that tour or that leg or whatever.
I really like how you said democracy of art. That is a great way of describing it, and you know this very well, and the people I've interviewed as well. It's just so weird, like how people like they fixate on like like a certain part or just like something, as you said, just like a note chord or something, where it's like can we continue on with this process of making this song and not get hung up on this stuff. It just, to me, it just boggles my mind sometimes. But again, like what I do is all is solo, not music wise but podcasting wise. Like I do all of this myself. I don't, I'm in control of everything, and I do, if people do help me out, it's because I can trust that I can work with them. So it's definitely interesting. Just hearing that kind of made me laugh a little bit, because I've heard it before with some people.
It's interesting because when I think about it over the years, I can actually zero in on it really clearly when I'm listening to music or some like epic new band or some thing, and I hear it a little moment where it goes way over that way, and I go like, I bet that was like a 50-minute discussion about like, should we, shouldn't we, what does it mean, what's the validity, is it too out there, or maybe because it is too out there we should just do it, because then that, and I can hear it now when I listen to music. I'm like, yeah, that was a left field curveball that people probably debated over, and I respect it, because I grew up in that culture. I understand that polarity of opinion and that polarity of vision and how it all can be cohesive. And sometimes it's just like, I don't like it, but fuck it, let's do it. And then it ends up being that special moment that everyone memorize or is so memorable for the listener, or it was a creative victory of the politics within the band dynamic. But at the end of the day, yeah, it is just a song. So why not do it? Or maybe, like I can see sometimes again, my story is just keeping it simple, but then why not at the same time? So there is a sort of, contradiction there that I live in between both worlds, but at the end of the day, like, the Sweet Kill is pretty self-supporting in that realm. So
there's definitely a balance when it comes to like that kind of stuff, whether to do it or not. And like, it's funny, you can hear the conversation just based on what the song was. It is also, I wanted to touch on a real quick point that you said just a little bit ago about working with the best, but if the best is not around, you'll find another best. I know, I think Alice Cooper said it well, like if if this for whatever reason this person has to leave the band or they slip up, there's going to be 10 people who are waiting to take their place.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I love Alice Cooper.
He's my favorite. He was the first concert I went to, and
Oh, wow.
been hooked. That I saw him in 10 years ago or 9 years ago, 2013.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
Well, I mean, like anything to do with theatrics, like the way that he came out and in his androgyny, but then at the same time he's a demon dude, and songs like the Ballad of Dwight Fry or anything off of Killer, like it's quite evocative, and it's very reminiscent of my relationship with, say, Kiss, and how they had such an impact on me just by the visuals. And like I can like, oh, who's my favorite? I like the guy with the dragon, but then I like the guy who's the cat because I like cats. And it's like it always interchanges depending on what mood I'm on and I just love like anything to do with theatrics.
Well, it was so cool, and honestly, I think I was like that was like the perfect concert to go see because it's a show. It's not just a concert; it is a whole performance. I know I have his DVD of his 1975 "Welcome to My Nightmare" concert, and that was so over the top. He had like the spider webs with the spiders, and he had like a toy bin that would like people would pop out and give him stuff. So it was just so like over the top and elaborate that it's just like. How like to me that's just so cool to have music but also performance as well.
Yeah, I think like that the whole stage of it all, the theatrical element of like of not just like I'm sitting there, I'm singing my heart out, and I'm really emotional. It's like but what about the spiders? Okay, like what about the bats? Where's the lightning coming from? Give me an explosion. I'm stoked.
Well, exactly. No, I respect a really good concert, like music wise too. But it's just so cool, like as you said, like the Ballad of Dwight Fry, where he gets like put into the straitjacket and then he escapes the straitjacket and he attacks the nurse. There's just it's so cool to like see that kind of part of that song come to life right in front of you.
Yeah, and that song "Tourniquet" off of Antichrist Superstar by Marilyn Manson literally takes a page from the chord progression and the vibe of Ballad of Dwight Fry. Like there's a correlation there, and of course Marilyn Manson's that version. And David Bowie. Yeah, just I could go on and on about like the theatrics of stuff that I just love.
Oh, I definitely too, and I know we could. I will say one thing, and then I do have some questions that we want to talk about for Darkness. Alice Cooper said it the best. He said this is like Marilyn Manson is the modern day version of Alice Cooper.
Yep.
And that is so true.
Yeah, so listen to Tourniquet. Listen to
I will. I own that album too.
Yeah, I think it's the third song off that album. I'm not familiar. I'm not sure exactly the track listing, but Tourniquet, literally listen to Ballad of Dwight Fry, especially the end of Ballad of Dwight Fry. It's like pretty much the same song.
I'm gonna have to check. Like I haven't listened to Marilyn Manson in a while. Like I own that album because I think a lot of people own Antichrist Superstar. I think that's his biggest album.
Yep.
So I definitely will. You see every interview. I love it because I learned something new about something like I love like Alice Cooper and Marilyn Manson, that kind of stuff. That I learned something new.
Right on, man. Here to serve, man.
Hey, I appreciate it. So for you, since as I said, this is Sweet Kill. This is your project. Is it a different experience for you? Like writing with a band compared writing to like the solo projects, the Sweet Kill.
Yeah, and over the years, of just being in a band, like I love collaborations, and I, when I had a songwriting partner, we would pretty much say that if we bring in a third and we don't have something within 2 hours, we're just gonna either not work with that person again, or we're gonna start a new song. Because it's like there's a 2 hour sort of machination, throwing some ideas, concepts, listening, maybe understanding the vibe and all that, that if you can't figure it out within 2 hours, then it's just not going to work out. So these little rules and these little like guidelines and frameworks I super value and I love. The Sweet Kill is very personal to me, and it's not necessarily open for thematic perspective or output or input. It's more about, for me, tapping into that truth within me, that energy, that life experience that is very exclusive to what I've gone through over the years, going down the dark depths of sorrow, despair, self-doubt, existential crisis, and then coming out the other side of it with like hope, exuberance, and like polarity and perspective and clarity. All those things, like I can't really, like, I don't really want to bounce them off of somebody else. However, sonically speaking and genre wise, like I'm very focused on like early 80s and like that sound of coldness. And I love castles and darkness and anything to do with gothic lore and old school like mythology. It's like really important to me. I feel very passionate about it because like that's a lot of the great literature, like Russian literatures and Edgar Allan Poe and all these people that like kind of touch on those areas, these aspects of darkness. And I don't know, I just find it super inspiring. And so I just get lost in the studio that I have, Shadow Zone Sound. I just get lost in it. And I just spend days, hours, just kind of exploring and having that experience where I don't have a 2-hour time limit. I don't have sort of any sort of outside input. It's very coming from within my connection to the source of energy that created me in the first place, that puts me in a position to be a channel for its flow. So I call it, one of my spiritual advisors calls it the unconscious, what's it called? The vibrational arch, that sort of the unconscious of everyone's connectivity to it. And so the world's kind of it's always been what it's always been, but I feel like it's like we're at a tipping point right now, and I feel very inspired to be the catalyst of darkness.
I really like that you said catalyst of darkness. That is a very solid tagline. But it's so cool that like the album, like when I listen to it, it's very tight. Like, you know, just the songs just flow one after the other. I can tell just by listening to it that you put a lot of effort and thought to like lay out each song, to record each song, and lay out the track listing, and you know how you wanted to represent the album in its whole. You put a lot of effort to it, and I was very impressed. Like listening the whole thing, I had to keep listening to it because I felt like I had to, like, I picked up something new every time I listened to each song.
I appreciate you, man. I appreciate that. That's the whole point, right? Like it's not just like one and done, and you get it all out of the gate. And the idea is to create enough of a impact to the listener to want to hear it again, or they find themselves in weird moments, like whether they're in the bread aisle at Ralph's and all of a sudden they're humming something, or, you know, like that's the goal, is to get it hook enough within the unconscious to be able to go, I want to hear that again. And the first 4 songs that I was sending out as a private SoundCloud link to a bunch of labels, managers, booking agents, stuff like that, was it was in the order of Darkness, Closer, Cold, and then Heart Attack. So those were the first 4 songs that sort of got the ball rolling. And a lot of, you know, sync agencies and stuff like that were like, oh yeah, we love the music, it's just not what we're pitching right now to film, but, you know, keep submitting. Or a lot of people, it's like, you know, we're full up on our roster and our labels, but like it's great stuff. So I got a lot of like all the if you will rejections were very positive, you know what I mean? And then when right away when Young and Cold heard it, they're just like, yeah, we want to put this out. And they said, do you want to do an EP or an album? And then they paid more for an album. So I'm like, yeah, I'll do an album. And so, but because I knew the cohesion was there, and a big part of that was actually running on a lot of these ideas and concepts by my girlfriend. We're super extreme. We're super turbulent in our relationship and as individuals. So when I first played her the initial mix of Closer, she's like, I don't know, man. We should just like jump off a cliff. This sucks. It's not what it should be. And I was like, but I know how to mix and I know how to do it. And it's fine. It sounds good to me. And she's like, and essentially like what I extracted from her, because she's Russian. So what I extracted was that we just needed more verb on the snare and we needed more verb on the vocals, you know? And it was just like that simple. And then, you know, make the piano a little bit more affected with phaser and flanger. And these are just like the basics, but she wasn't able to articulate other than it sucks. So it was kind of, you know, it was a nice transition to be able to like, you know, press her and prod her as to, well, what do you mean? And me sort of taking myself out of the left brain artistic element and to go into the right brain technical and go like, so what about this? And what about that? And so essentially, like I said, the extraction was just like way more reverb and way more effects. And that's sort of, you know, and she was really integral. And that's why she gets additional production credit on the album, because she was very, you know, she voiced her opinions quite articulately. And then it was, you know, when the ones that I didn't understand, the opinions I didn't understand, I was just asking like, you know, broad and out there questions to sort of interpret what it is that she was looking for. But essentially, it was a really cool dynamic, and it really it was a big part of the cohesion.
Well, it's kind of you know, what we talked about earlier with having, like, you know, as you said, like not too many like outside influences or factors in the album, but to have that one where like it's someone you trust very well.
Yep.
To like get you like a little bit different perspective on stuff. And even like it's just so cool how a song, you transform a song, like as you said, it's just the basics for how you know what you changed about the song, but it makes a whole lot of difference.
Oh yeah, and it's just subtle stuff. I mean, maybe it would be fine without it, but at the end of the day, it had an energy, and it's like one thing. Like I kind of look at like when Susie Sue started hanging out with Robert Smith. I mean, I don't know the exact details. I think they might have been dating, but the Cure got darker. They just got way darker after that exchange. I think that he was playing with her as a guitar player in her band for a minute too. So there was like a good, and I kind of look at the Susie Sue, Robert Smith dynamic with me and my girlfriend. And so I think that this release party we're going to be having at Bar Sinister, she's going to be playing keyboards in the band. So she's like, you know, having that Robert Smith experience with me. And yeah.
But that is just so cool. And you know, before I comment on what you said, it is true. Like the Cure, but they kind of started out more as like a rock band, but then
like a punk,
yeah, you can really tell like their music got way darker. But I mean, to me, like some say it's some of their best stuff. So they're, you know, it's up to interpretation. But they definitely tell there was a big shift in their music, and that is definitely one of the factors. But it's so cool for having someone have like you know, give you very good like opinion, listen to music, be a very huge part of you know, like listening to music to you know, give you that feedback and those details about, you know, what, you know, either like the song or like what to do better. It's so cool that she'll be playing keyboards with you for the release show.
Yeah, I think so. I think she's definitely earned that, you know, experience to be, you know, she's definitely, I mean, she even came up with some of the keyboard lines. So it's like, well, who else better to play it than the person who came up with it? So yeah.
Exactly. Now, have you performed with her before?
Nope.
First time.
Yep.
I assume you're excited for it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, the show's a little bit a ways away. You know, we just moved from Hollywood to the burbs, and the studio is a big part of my peace of mind. And so I'm very focused on, like, you know, we got a guy in to tune the room and put all the Orlex on the walls and such certain spacing. And there's this procedure that occurs in the technical realm of throwing white noise, which is just pretty much, and then so it tunes the room. And he has this, you know, weird schematic that shows the EQ of the actual room, and the problem areas get to be toned out through the EQ of the speakers. And it's a procedure, man. So the focus has been like, okay, get the studio up and running, and getting it so I can get into that peace of mind. Because without me creating, I'm just a rudderless ship, man. I'm just like, why am I here? Like, you know, I mean, yeah, I'm here. I have a purpose, you know, is to uplift others and be a channel. But like, without me fully, you know, maximizing my expression, I get a little bit weird, you know.
No, for sure. You need that. You need, the thing to ground you, to like put you in your element for that you can be at 100%. You can be the best you can.
Yeah,
For
absolutely.
sure. And so, when is the release show?
November 26th. So
Nice.
2 months away, essentially. But there's a bunch of work. There's a bunch of new songs that are going to be, that aren't even on Darkness, that are just in the works, that are super phenomenal, and they have to be a part of the show. So how I work is I just sort of get all those sounds and the instrumentation flushed out, so then I could send them to the guitar player, to the bass player, to the drummer, for them to learn note for note what's going on, so then we can have an experience. Now, obviously, I'm not like a guy who wants it to be exactly the way it's supposed to be. Like, there's, the players that I have been blessed with to play with have the athletic decisions within them to do something cool over here, or when this moment comes, to lead up to it and create. So there's like a nice kind of unpredictableness of the live performance that I really enjoy, because, I've always, as a kid growing up, I never liked live performances because things were always different than the album. And I remember, and that was a big testament or a foreshadowing as to why I became a producer, because I'm so specifically attuned to every little nuance. Now, when it's ever so off, I'm like, why didn't they do that? Like, why is it that Lou Reed can't sing Venus and Furs exactly like it is on the album? And it has to be some weird spoken word experience. Like, but I get it as a performer that, like, sometimes you got to just leave things up to the unpredictability of the live performance. And so I got great musicians that have the capacity to kind of like think outside the box, do their thing with it. But at least, so I'm a fan of the movie Hearts of Darkness, which is the behind the scenes documentary of the movie Apocalypse Now, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. And then in the behind the scenes Hearts of Darkness, there's a scene between Dennis Hopper, who is just high as a kite, probably snorting way too much coke during his thing. And of course, his role in the movie was he was a photographer documenting the war. And so Francis Ford Coppola said to him, like, hey, so you're not really doing your lines as they're written. And he's just like, yeah, man, I'm doing my thing. I feel it, And he's like, Dennis, you got to learn your lines so you can forget them. And you see the light bulb come on, and Dennis is like, whoa. So that's how I like to be playing with, as say I'm the director of the show, so to speak. I like to have musicians that can learn the parts, but then they can also, by knowing them, they can kind of embellish or enhance them. So it's like unpredictability again.
For sure, that's I've seen Apocalypse Now. I did that for that was my senior year of high school. We had to watch that and write a paper about it.
Amazing.
It's very dark, like, but that's also the whole point of it. But it is so well done and well written, like just the visuals of it too. Like, sometimes you didn't really need too much of the dialogue; you just see what is going on. It was it's truly amazing. I haven't seen it since then. But honestly, if I probably watched it again, I'd probably pick up more than what I wrote about in my paper.
I would highly recommend watching Hearts of Darkness, because that movie, Apocalypse Now, went 2 years over budget. 2 years over budget. Like that, they were in it. They were in the Philippines, and they were just like becoming part of the script. That's how esoteric it got, and how, morphing it became reality versus movie versus the history of Vietnam. And it just became a thing. And that movie, Hearts of Darkness, is like phenomenally constructed, because there's a whole team of people, a whole crew of people filming the behind the scenes of this making of this phenomenal movie that just was like met with roadblock after roadblock and years over budget, and just the insanity of it all. And it's insane. And of course, the book, Joseph Conrad, Hearts of Darkness, is the foundation point. But that's the name of the documentary, behind the scenes, Hearts of Darkness.
Yeah, I've read Hearts of Darkness, but I have not seen the behind the scenes. I'm definitely going to check that out, just because of, just as you said, that they became part of, like, they were the movie, which was characters portraying what is written. But like, I don't know, for like them, they actually became the movie.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah,
it's kind of like, it's creepy in it, but it's really cool.
Oh, but for sure, and that to the point you were making with it is like for people who like actually know what their lines are and what they if they intimately know what is going on, then they can go, okay, I can embellish on this,
Yep.
I can do this part because they know how the flow is. That if they do add something, it's going to be natural, but also it's going to fit because they know it so well.
That's the difference between an actual great musician and an imposter syndrome. In the sense that the imposter syndrome just wants to not rock the boat. Okay, you want me to play this? I'll play it exactly like it is. But then there's like the real musician who's like, yeah, but I got me, I got to put into that. And that's what I love.
Well, for sure, and I'm sure all those the players who you're working with, I'm sure they can play that exactly how the album is. But for them to intimately know what is going on, for that they can do their own style on it. I'm going to bring up Alice Cooper once again. He said that he wants the musicians to play with the song, just stay within the realms of the song, but play with it a little bit. For it's not just people can listen to the album. It's experiencing the music live. That's the difference.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said.
So I'm it should be well. We'll see if I have any more Alice Cooper references. But for right now, I do want to talk about you did film some music videos for Darkness. That was for Closer, Satellite, and the title track itself. They're very visual with the music video. So how was it filming them?
Well, the first director, this guy named Lorenzo, he's from Italy, and he's like, I wanted to do a song with a video with a guy putting his heart in his hand. And I'm like, sold, let's do it. And he's like, he was really fun to work with. And we went up to the Santa Monica Mountains and we went to my studio and shot it down there. And then he added some guy with a bunch of like weird 3D effects. That's all like 3D art. And so I was like, yeah, cool, man. It's like a fun little video. Satellite was more of like a storyline in the sense of when I stopped using drugs and alcohol, I wanted to write a song to sort of celebrate that and try to capture the seriousness of the transitional element of going from one lifestyle into another, and instead of the fear of the unknown, but the excitement of the unknown and what's to come, and this fourth dimensional existence, if you will. So that's what Satellite is like the symbol, the trope that we used was like the addiction or the illness I'm chasing, and it's chasing me and I'm chasing it. And then we confront each other. And then, that was the storyline of that. And then Darkness, I just wanted to do something dark. I just wanted to have something be scary and fun. And panthers, to me, I'm fascinated by them, but I'm super scared of them. And we had a live panther on set. It was like insane. It was very intimidating, being that I was in a straitjacket. And so if the panther were to react to me, there's one moment, there was a danger zone moment. We have it on film in the BTS filming, behind the scenes. It was intense because, they were like distracting the panther with rock and roll. Like the panther apparently likes like classic rock because it grew up with it. So like we had like Alice in Chains, Guns N' Roses, like, Black Sabbath just being played on loop during that whole filming, but also chicken. So there's a lot of chicken, like, hey, have a chicken. Hey, Murphy, have a chicken. And so it was one time where he just started like looking at me and I'm looking at him. And then he kind of like, instead of following the call of the trainer, it turned and came towards me. And so then they did like their troubleshooting, and it was just a moment. But they said, do not move, stay calm. And that was the thing. We all had to, as a crew, huddle together. And the training was that if the panther slips its safety rope or its safety leash, because there's a safety leash that's like super thin that you can't see on film. And if it slips out, if for some reason, because it's not super tight, so it could slip out at any moment, he goes, whatever you do not run. If you're in a pack, it's not, but if you start running and they start running, then someone's going to, get pounced upon. So we had that training, and obviously they had 3 trainers in there, like monitoring the whole situation. And that blood, I actually fell out of the chair doing a fake seizure, and I hit my head on the ground. So that's like real blood. and I got a concussion. So I was like literally in bed for a whole month after that. I missed my Pro Tools subscription renewal, and they were like, well, too bad. I'm like, yeah, but what if I gave you a doctor's note to like actually, and they're like, okay, fine. So they accepted my doctor's note. I got a month free of Pro Tools and whatever. My subscription renewal is now November as opposed to October. But yeah, it was one of those moments where like I just wanted creepy to be the prevalent element, and hence the song is called Darkness. So the amalgamation of the two made sense.
I think that is just so awesome and so badass that not only like you like, 'cause, you know, I was trying to figure out, is that real? Is that, computer animated? And it's just so cool. You get to work with an actual panther. It loves classic rock music. Like, come on, like you can't make that up.
Yeah, it was a phenomenal experience.
But to me, that is just so awesome, and that you got to do that. Obviously, no one got injured by the panther. You know, you got suffered a concussion, but you got a free month of Pro Tools, so balances out. Glad they accepted your doctor's note.
That's what they requested. That they're like, "Can you prove it?" I'm like, "No problem." Like,
no, I've had a concussion before. They're not. It's not fun.
no, it's like weird brain fog, man. I'm just like, "What? This isn't me." But I just want to go back to bed.
It's pretty much what I actually got tinnitus for mine, which is
Oh wow.
yeah, and like tonight, like I know like people who unfortunately like take their own life because of tinnitus, and like I totally understand that. Like it does, it messes with your you wouldn't think that it does, but it messes with your mind and your ability just so much.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so cool. You had some really great experiences, and it's awesome to see the storylines play out in Satellite, and just the and then going to Darkness. Just I really like the whole visuals with it. You know, obviously you got the panther, but also I really like the contrast from like a white background, but like either people are wearing black or you got a black panther, that you have like light and the dark contrast with it.
Oh, thanks. You know, we got a special effects guy. Some of those close-ups of the panther, we CGI'd black into the background. So that was a lot of work for the CGI guy because he had to like maintain the whiskers. But we thought it'd be cool if the panther had the sheen of the white light on him with the reflection of the white background, but then CGI black onto that. So then that creates a new energy, right? So
it definitely turned out awesome. I'm going to leave some for links to the music videos in the description of this podcast. Of course, I again, just like with the album, there's effort and cohesiveness with the music videos.
Thank you. Labor of love.
Of course. Now, as I begin to wrap up this interview, I do have another new question. I'm very curious for you, since the Sweet Kill is a solo project. So I am curious, if you recorded what you considered to be the most perfect album, but for whatever reason it was not released, would you be content knowing you recorded it, or would you want people to listen to it and have it released?
Oh, dude. It's a tough question because I think anytime I know something is that I've done the best of my ability at recording it, mastering it, writing it, performing on it, honing in on the lyrical perspective and theme, and like codifying that. And there's such a beautiful gratification. I just feel so complete right then and there. Then the other side of me is like, well, if I like it so much, maybe someone else would. And if we all lived in a vacuum, then I would never have that sort of feedback. Like there's something really gratifying of having Young and Cold Records be so supportive and be so adulent and so enthusiastic like that. And then as a result of that, being on a label with all these like-minded bands of these up and coming, or established dark wave acts, that community is really important. And then as a result of that, like festivals, and then fans that just like organically fall in love with it. Like one of my producer friends in Canada, he said, like, you never have to really worry about building a fan base. They'll find you. people love music. People love new music. People love specific things. And, I just feel there's like such a nice rapport of having that reciprocity with an audience. There is such a nice recognition as an artist, ultimately. So it's a tough question, man, because I feel complete when I know I've done something to the best of my ability. But then it's like, it's a tough thing to gauge, because then the feedback I get from people I've never met before, the Bandcamp sales that just keep happening, and like the comments that are left or whatever, it's just like, it's everything for an artist. I mean, I don't read every comment, but like the ones that I do that are super supportive, even the ones that aren't supportive, it's just like, wow, you cared enough to write something on my thing. Thank you.
No, it definitely it is a tough question. That's why I kind of like to include it, just because I want to kind of understand, for artist perspective, like, how you feel about that. But also, I think honestly, most of the people who I do ask, who I interview, they say they want to like release because they want people to listen to it. They want, if people have a connection with it, that would be awesome. But also to influence other people. Like, we wouldn't have Marilyn Manson if we didn't have Alice Cooper.
Right. And when there's that documentary called Control about Joy Division, and it shows a scene in the fun fact about that movie is that the actors they learned how to play. Like, that's how easy it was for Joy Division, or anybody for that matter, to like play a Joy Division song. So there's a scene in that movie where it was like, I think it was Steve Jones and Paul Cook, or maybe it was Steve Jones and Johnny Lydon from the Sex Pistols, that were just sort of watching that first Joy Division show in that like half-filled auditorium. And it's like, you could see the wheels turning, and they specifically did that scene to sort of a hint that, like, without Joy Division's come as they may approach to playing music, it gave permission for punk rockers to be like, I don't need to be like the best musician. I can just do what I do, man. I can express myself in my limitations. My limitations can be my strengths. I don't have to be like a jazz musician to be able to, So yeah, like it's all about, it's all, everything I see, I take in like a sponge, but I have to have an outflow. And I would love to, and I'm honored if I'm an outflow for someone else,
Oh, definitely. Just having that influence that, as you said, like with the Sex Pistols, it was funny. I've been listening to them this week, so it's kind of funny you mentioned them. But yeah, to have them be inspired to, have their own music and to form their own band, like to me, that would just be so awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely.
Do you play?
No, I actually I don't. No, I'm just more of a podcast. Like, I love music, but I'm not like, that musically inclined.
Okay. All right.
For sure. But one more thing before we talk about your future plans for the Sweet Kill. What has been your favorite moment from your musical career so far?
Favorite moment. A lot of them come in the studio. It's because there's something really powerful to be able to pull something out of thin air and start to like, it's like a sculptor, right? Like, it's just a block of mass, and then they kind of like create the Mona Lisa or whatever. Or is it the Mona Lisa, the no arms? Michelangelo.
There you go. Yep.
Michelangelo? Oh, yeah, whatever it is.
I think, yeah, no, Mona Lisa's the painting. So
yeah, sorry. Yeah. So the Michelangelo, like, it was just a block and sort of carving. And so that's what I do with the sonics of creating music. And so there's something really, really gratifying, and I get every time I pull something out of thin air, because then I have this envisionment of like what it would be like live on stage. And so sometimes I test run the songs live on stage and realize they're either too slow or too fast or wrong key, because certain notes don't fit as right with my vocals. So like it's so it's like a back and forth between live and studio for me. They're almost synonymous to me. They're not mutually exclusive. So live performances are based off of my comfortability singing the song that I wrote in the studio. So sometimes I hit a home run and it's just like, yeah, it's perfect key, perfect tempo. This is the one. Oh my God, I came up with it in 5 minutes. How crazy is that? And sometimes they take they're more of an expedition of a deep dive into the center of the earth. Like how long is that going to take? I don't know. Sometimes they take years. Sometimes they take 5 minutes. I don't know. But that energy is it expresses itself live. So to me, I look at them as the same. So any one time, it's more like a global, whenever I pull something out of thin air and I have an enjoyment playing it either acoustically in front of like a coffee shop full of people or a 10,000 stage stadium, it doesn't matter to me. It's just the ability to kind of take something from nothing and put it into a performance. And any one of those times, depending on, it's not exclusive to the venue. It's more about like that experience of catharsis.
I really like how you answered that. It's like, to me, it is like, like live and studio, they can be very synonymous because you put in the effort to then perform live, but also it's going to be very gratifying anytime you perform live because you get to perform live in front of people and you kind of see their reaction, their feedback, and their connection with the music.
Yes, it's very gratifying feeling when that encore keeps going into a second, to a third. It's just like, oh my God, this is the best.
For sure. And so for you, like, what are the plans for the Sweet Kill as we close out 2022, but then looking into next year, 2023?
Closing out 2022 is going to be a big celebration of merchandise and Shopify and Marketplace, Instagram, Facebook, and just getting all of our product out there. The label just sent me a bunch of vinyl and CDs. So they're also purchasable on the Bandcamp. But it's to me building the blocks to create the quantity of product to be available to our fans. And so and plus switching studios, like moving, it was taking a lot of time because a big part of the Sweet Kill is based off of my ability to cipher and be a channel for new music. And so I've had I work at it, but it's also, there's like that there's a time period. So 2022 is like pretty much releasing the product, preparing the product, and having a nice sort of end to the year with this release party that we're going to do in Hollywood, November 26th at Bar Sinister. We got this great band Deceits that are going to be opening the night, and my girlfriend pointed me out to them. They're local and I just love them. They're really actually making some strides right now. So it's going to be a great show. But for 2023 it's going to be festivals in Europe, and it's going to be that focus, getting this out on the road, getting this out to the people that really have given so much loving feedback with what's been with the album Darkness so far. And then I would hope towards the end of 2023 to potentially release another album. So I like to keep things moving and build. And I love some of my favorite bands back in the day were doing like Kiss did like 2 albums in 1 year. They did, but it's generally, they started to get into a flow where it was like an album a year. And I'm more than happy to fall in the lines of that. Like I think it's, I have really no excuse with the accessibility of my studio and my ability to operate it. Like there's no, I'm the governor, you know what I mean? Like I am the catalyst, and I'm it falls on me when stuff's not moving because again, it's all me. So kind of like I have no excuse.
Yeah, the excuses might be a little weak when you are part of the studio.
Yep.
But that is, you have a lot of great things in the works. I look forward, to seeing where you really progress from here. I hope you have a great release party. It sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. If I was anywhere closer, I definitely would be there. Unfortunately, I'm on way different time zones away, unfortunately. But I do hope you have a really great time. And it is kind of cool. Like, I'm an album person. I love listening to albums. And right now with the Spotify, kind of formula of just releasing singles, and you put them into an EP, like, it's cool. But to me, an album is more fulfilling to listen.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's a fully flushed out perspective. Whereas an EP is kind of like I think EPs were used as testing the trajectory of a certain perspective or a direction the artist was taking. Oh yeah, this is okay. Now let's do an album based off of or you know what, that wasn't so much so well received. let's regroup, do another EP down this direction. So to me, I felt that energy from Young and Cold's perspective on those first 4 songs. And I just like, you know what? I got it in me. I'm just going to do it. Let's go. And it felt really awesome just to codify Darkness in its totality, and the order of every song is definitely methodical. There is no like, hey, yeah, the throw together. It's like, no, everything's got, like, it was very methodical as to what's going to be the first song, side 2. It was very methodical what we were going to close side 1 with, and it was very methodical what the end of the song. So we base things like, I base things like that. Flow, I grew up on albums, so like singles are cool, EPs are cool, but like the cohesion of a whole thing means a lot to me.
Definitely. And I think for me as a listener, like to me, it's more fulfilling, like, that you get, as you said, a more fleshed out product. You get the whole experience that is intended through, a whole album. As you said, you close out side 1. What is going to be, how are you going to start side 2? And you'll have that flow. I think very well done. And it's kind of funny when you mentioned about Kiss, like they would do an album a year, sometimes 2 albums a year. They would all be bangers. They would all be really good albums within that year. Like there wasn't any skips for those albums.
Nope. Yeah. Big fan of the 70s era Kiss. Big fan.
Oh, for sure. Like to me, Destroyer is one of my favorite albums. So, that was what I think 76. So yeah, that whole like era of Kiss is just, they knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah.
And so yeah, but then it kind of anyway. But yeah,
but back to your love for Alice Cooper. They shared the same producer.
Yeah, Bob Everson. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, he's a legend.
Oh, he definitely just and again he's someone who he knew what he wanted out of the bands and knew like I'm 18 off of Love It to Death. That was supposed to be like a 7-minute song, and Bob's like, no, you're cutting it down. You're gonna make it a real rocker.
Yeah,
and that's what they did.
Amazing. That's a good producer.
Oh yeah. He knows like what to get out of the bands, but also has that vision for what the album's going to sound like. I think that's important before you even start recording. Is like you have to know what direction, like where you kind of want to go with the music.
Yeah, absolutely.
As I'm sure you know very well.
Absolutely.
But Pete, thank you so much for hanging out with me here on Super Cool Radio. I know I told you before we started that we're going to be about 30 or 40 minutes, but I had a really great time chatting with you, so I kept you a little bit longer. Hope that's okay. Yeah,
no, my pleasure, man. It's an honor to talk with you, Matthew. Your questions are great. I can feel your enthusiasm, and it's just really it goes for good. You give good interview, man.
Hey, that is what I go for here on Super Cool Radio. But Pete of the Sweet Kill, thanks so much for hanging out with me here on Super Cool Radio. Make sure to check out the links in the description. I'll drop some for the Bandcamp, music videos, social links. I'll drop all that in the description. Please check out the Sweet Kill. Give it a listen. I love it. I know you guys will.
At the Sweet Kill you can find us on all social media, and that's just, we're lucky that way. There's no underscore or numbers. It's the Sweet Kill. And yeah, come follow, come along for the ride, man. Definitely stick around for the journey of darkness. When you listen to it, as I said, check out the socials. But for Pete Mills of the Sweet Kill, I'm your host as always, Matthew Thomas. Thank you so much for watching and listening to Super Cool Radio. And remember, stay frosty. Yeah.